Only 3 people have ever completed the EpicDeca Ultra Endurance event, and JD Tremblay is one of them. And he's the only Canadian. A military veteran, engineer, and author of Hunger for More in Life, JD engineered resilience under sustained fatigue, leading himself when quitting was rational and pressure was constant. And as JD has said, if your goals are not scaring you, then you need to set the bar higher. Today, we're going to examine what extreme endurance teaches us about resilience and leadership, how character, discipline, and systems thinking determines who remains when adversity does not let up. This is the Change Agent Podcast. JD, thank you so much for joining me today. It's good to have you.
Thank you, Eric, for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem. I'm very excited about talking to you about all these things that you've done. And so to get off of that, let's get right to it. You've completed this EpicDeca. Not many people know what that is. Can you describe that for me a little bit?
Correct. The EpicDeca is a race created by the Epic 5 company, and they did it for their 10-year anniversary. That includes 10 Ironman-distances in 10 days on 6 different Hawaiian Islands.
Mm. Was that beautiful or what?
I liked it. I really enjoyed it. To me, it was a blast. I would not do it again. That's for sure. I did it. And the race will not happen again because it was for their 10-year anniversary. So they did that event to double their distance. But I loved it. I think it was beautiful. And I get to say now that I swam, bike, and ran the entire islands of Hawaii. So,
and only 3 people have done that. Correct. I mean, that's it. It's 3 of you. And you're the only Canadian.
I'm the only, correct. Yeah, I am the only Canadian. Yeah, you're right.
Wow. You know, I think about the extreme part of that. And the decision to take that challenge on was not something that was obviously impulsive. I mean, I can't imagine that it was. And it required that you have this acceptance of risk, the understanding that there's going to be a definite amount of pain involved. And there's even a possibility that you wouldn't have completed it. I mean, there has to be some of that in the back of your mind. And when we think about like consequential leadership in terms of leaders themselves, that often also begins with a private decision that they're going to do something with the acceptance of some major risk. But related to you, what was it that compelled you to attempt it?
For me, it was about doing something that was outside of the norm, so that I would stand out. It was more of a survival mechanism. I understood that some of these people had to push the limits. I was looking at guys like David Goggins, Rich Roll, who created the company Epic 5 and later sold it. That's what I was looking at. I was looking at these guys who came out or worked on their mental health through these events and created this transformation in other people's lives in their own way. So in essence, it was a survival mechanism for me.
Mm-hmm. And did you undertake this by this idea of proving something to yourself or discovering what life in that moment would be like?
For me, it was about creating that structure. It was part of my identity. Part of my non-negotiable was I must work out. So I already had a structure of I must conduct certain physical activities throughout the day. It might be push-ups, or it might be running or climbing a mountain if I have the time, but it was part of my non-negotiable. But I already had that structure of I have to do something that is physical in my day, and then it just trickled down because I built my capacity to endure, and that's what did it for me.
Yeah, that sounds very similar to this thought I was having earlier today, was the concept of discipline over comfort. And the endurance events that you completed are definitely Some people might think it's about fitness, and it is definitely about fitness, but it's also about discovering that strength that you have when you're running on fumes, when you just are beaten down, like you just, because people know that, it's a mental game as much. And the drive to keep going starts to switch from a physical thing to a psychological bit, makes it more psychologically challenging. At what point during those 10 days did you find that it was harder to do this from a mental perspective than it was a physical one?
The first day.
Yeah. I thought you would say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was way before 3. It was the first day. The first day I was trained. I understood my limits. I was really, really well prepared because I understood something that many people they learn from it much later on, is that I learned it in the military. I saw that the pressure doesn't break people. It just reveals their level of preparation. So for me, I was really well prepared. I had a 30-page document that explained exactly how I would react. I had in that document what would happen in an emergency. And we're talking about what would happen if I would get hit by a car and get back on in the race. What would be the symptoms of me going back into the race? Or for me, that was the level of preparation that I had. Even a marathon, after no more than the first 5K, it's not even physical anymore. It's not even physical anymore. Everything is mental state, how you will react to the outcome. And for me, I had I understood my limits, but I had more than burned the boats. Now I'm saying it because I became I had to rebuild myself from the ground up completely. Now I am doing very well in financially and in all aspects. I remember on day 3, I did not know if I was going to make it, or my crew chief did not know if I was going to make it based on the amount of time it was taking me to run. Your IT bands are completely shut, like tight. They're so tight. You have difficulty running. So you're walking, limping, and your legs are hurting. I'm doing a lap of the golf course and I'm plunging. I was plunging my feet in ice coolers. And I'm laying in the back of a van, but half my body is in the back, like my body is in the back of the van. My feet are hanging and they put a cooler of ice and they said, well, you got 10 minutes in that ice water. So my feet would go in there. I'm laying down and I'm closing my eyes and immediately, just at the snap of a finger, I'm out. I don't even remember anything other than the beep that says, all right, you have to put your shoes back on and you're off again for another lap, or you do 1 or 2 laps and then you hop into those ice buckets. So the mindset was definitely there. I don't recommend for people to just go on a whim and do it. There was a structure behind it. I knew from the start that I could finish. Like I knew, for me, there was a definite, yes, I can do it. So when I got to the EpicDeca, I saw it that, well, nobody achieved it before we did. There was only one time this race, but I was definitely confident that I would finish it. I had the mindset, I had the structure, I followed the plan. There was very, very little chance that I would not finish. I needed a God intervened moment, a hurricane that would stop me, or broken. I don't even know. I would have tried to finish on a broken leg. For me, it was that important for me that I had this mindset that I knew I would finish. I was very confident that I could. It was not arrogance, and I knew that I would stay humble, throughout the process. And And that's my favorite page in my book is the way that I explain to people. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing special about all of these great leaders out there that are leading our sports, our world. Nothing is special with these people. They have abilities, and they have harvested these ability over time. They've created a certain structure. They're following it, and that structure definitely leads their life to greater achievements. And these achievements to us seem completely unmeasurable. But when we look at guys that are transforming, changing the world, Elon Musk is you can hate him, like him for certain things. That's your prerogative. It's the idea that this guy has done a lot of changes for the world. And how he achieved it, well, he follows a certain structure, and what is that structure is the key information for everybody to know. So, and I'd like to share that structure with you, but we'll build, we have one that is specifically to build a framework so that people can use it. Here's the structure. We can use the acronym CHANGE so that people can use it in their daily life. It's not just, oh, JD accomplished the EpicDeca, and now it's great because you can listen to a podcast and say, well, this guy achieved that, or maybe they want to achieve something that is of greater measure. How are they going to build that structure? Because JD is talking about structure. Okay, so now I'm going to frame the structure so that other people can achieve their own greatness. Change in acronym. We love these acronyms in the military, as you know.
Yes, very much so.
The C is for capacity. Okay. So a lot of people will say, I'm going to go for goals. What is your goal in life? What is your goal? So if all of a sudden you look at JD and you frame it as, well, if JD can, and he said he wasn't special, well, I can definitely do an EpicDeca. If anyone listening to this is saying, I'm going to do this, and they just hop on their bike, go to Hawaii, do it on themselves, there's a high likelihood. I'm not saying it can't be done. Again, I'm not special. But if you haven't built the capacity to it, there's a high likelihood you will die. You will get injured. There is this guy on day 6, did not prepare very well. The guy, he's on the bike, got into a toilet, like a washroom. He just said, I'm feeling a bit like my gut is just not feel. The guy got into the washroom and it started pouring. All the liquids got out of his body. I'm going to spare you the details of everything. This guy was not able to hold anything down, had to be placed on IV, and the guy's race was over. So it's based on what can you handle. Okay. If you don't increase your physical, your mental, emotional capacity, your goals, like the new ones, will just crush you. So you can start reading the book and it says, well, JD's motto is, if your goals don't scare you, set the bar higher.
You took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to bring that up, but good. Yeah, well done.
But if all of a sudden those goals are not built on a capacity, you will hurt yourself. So I'm trying to, again, talk to the audience, talk to the people that are trying to set those goals. It's based on your capacity. So I'm trying to help others build that capacity. Do a 5K. If that's your, I'm not going to judge you based on your level that you are at. If I am the coach, what I'm going to judge you on is based on your inaction to create that change in your life. If you want to achieve that level of physical success, if that's your take, or if you want to achieve to become a leader, you don't just wake up one day and become all of a sudden the leader of a country or the leader of, and there are people that do it, but if you don't build that capacity, your goals will crush you. So H, change, is honest self-audit. Because many people are not even honest with themselves. We're not talking. Stop blaming others. Okay. God did not just breathe life into you to just be at that level where you are depriving others of the great human being that you could achieve and that you could be. So start that transformation somewhere, but start with honesty. That's the H, okay? That's the H is I had to be honest with myself. Am I able to do this? Do I have the capacity? Am I honest with myself? Is it an honest self-audit? Is it right for me? The A in change is aligned identity, okay? You don't build these new habits, okay? A lot of people talk about changes, and you're building that man naturally when you execute. Stop talking. Create some action. That's it. Or you could even say A would be action, but I prefer alignment with your identity. What are you created for? I just talked about Navy's. I'm not created to be a Navy SEAL. That's it. Even after the EpicDeca, I applied for, so I graduated from a top university in engineering. I integrated. So it's all the field of engineering into one program. And I liked my program. There's a lot that I didn't, but I graduated. Then my goal was to understand the engineering part, but really I wanted to become a doctor.
Yeah.
And I became a naturopath practitioner. My dad was saying, well, isn't this like a coach that talks about nutrition? Like what? And I said, I don't know why, but this is what God calls me to do. I want to deal with health. This is still a form of health care, but it's alternative medicines. I talked about the N earlier, which is non-negotiable. Okay. Set those non-negotiable. For me, non-negotiable, okay, it's also based on a standard. You can look at it like that too. Those non-negotiable for me is fitness. If I wake up at 4:00 in the morning, if I have, let's say, a podcast or something, for me, there are non-negotiable. That's it. I have to work out. I wake up at 4, somewhere in my day, there's going to be some form of workout. For me, it's not negotiable at all. For one of our clients, came into us over 60, never really worked out in his life, says, I want to live longer. I want to have a better lifestyle and healthy. And one of my non-negotiable is, JD, I don't want to work out. Oh boy.
It's going to be tough.
It is. And we talked to that person and we said, okay, well, I love being, having constraint. I love it because you discover something else. Well, we'll work on other aspect that really gives you a greater benefit than even working out. Because for that person, going to the gym and telling someone, "Oh, just go to the gym to get fit," that's not necessarily in alignment with their identity. For him, it was, I'm not working out. So his non-negotiable was, I'm not working out. Now the guy is very healthy, so we worked more on the sleeping side. We worked more on hormone regulation. We worked on nutrition. So those are the components that we can work on that can create a lot of momentum that might be even more beneficial than fitness itself. Going to the gym for that person is going to his body called gym. So there are other aspects to fitness. I'm just throwing out there fitness, but again, build your non-negotiable. What is that list for you? Okay. G is for growth. G is for growth. Okay. And you get growth through exposure. You're a leader. You've been in the military. How do people get to become great officers? If they become great officers, they have been in difficult situations that led them to become these great leaders. You will not grow if you are not exposed to that pain. That's how you build that confidence. Same thing for the EpicDeca. For me, it was through that exposure. Over time, I built that confidence that I knew by day one, I am going to finish. For me, I had that structure. I was well put, but I understood that things are going to unfold that I just don't know. So I was ready for it. And the E in the last one is the environment. E is for environment. You must redesign your environment. You must redesign your environment. I built the structure in the book, The Hunger for More in Life, is the second chapter. A second chapter. The first one was mindset. Obviously, you need to change your mindset, shift it to align with your goals, which I talked about. But the second one is based on environment. If you are in an unhealthy environment, just change it. Change that environment where you're not working. Say, a lot of people work at home. You're working in maybe a different location. You rent out a room. Or you make more time for her, or you try to love her more in that way, or you're shifting that, not just the mindset, but the environment that you're in can be chaotic without you knowing it. Sometimes where the guys are just, we've had a lot of executive come in and very often they bury themselves into work. They bury themselves into work. They overwork themselves when the real reasoning behind it is because they just want to avoid what we call the old lady. When really having a beautiful relationship and marriage, it can thrive with the right environment. And you must cultivate that environment. And sometimes when you create that environment of non-negotiables, that's it. On Friday afternoon, I am off every Friday afternoon, and I will go do something with my family. We talked before the podcast, and one of my questions was about your family. And you said, I do these trips with my family. I take care of my family. I do this. We do this as collectively. So it shows to me that not only are you a leader in your business, but you're also a leader at home, where you, again, with the E, I circle back to it, you're creating this environment and the family gets to follow this framework, this environment. Your family gets to enjoy themselves within that environment that you are creating. Because, and we would live much, much happier lives with this. For me, that environment, if I look back at the EpicDeca, one of my non-negotiable was, well, I'm a Christian. There you go. So it has to be God first. Second, my son means a lot to me. I love my son very, very much. I have to discipline him. I have to set standards for him and create these environments. And then my non-negotiable is that I have to work out. So what I did for my workout to the EpicDeca, I live up north of Quebec, lots of mountains, lots of snow, very, very cold. I would buy the best gear for my son to be very comfortable. And I bought a sled. I bought some ropes and I built this harness. And I would attach the whole unit together, put my son in the back, and climb mountains, sometimes in the middle of the night, with my son. That's the environment that he grew up in, is having dad in snowshoes with ski goggles at minus 40, going into a snowstorm sometimes in mountains, climbing them, and seeing this. It seemed crazy and insane for a lot of people, or unachievable for some people. But this was the environment that I was in. And I included my son into it so that we can grow together. And I know that my son eventually comes back. He loves you. Why?
Yeah.
Why do you have? Because he understands that you created this environment. You must follow this framework. You must follow this structure. And if you create that environment and all of these great memories with them, so that's a bit of the structure that people can use with this acronym change so that they can create that transformation in their life.
It's evident to me that you definitely live by that. And I want to go back to what you said about your goals, that if they don't scare you, you need to set the bar higher. And I think that that's definitely true. Do you think a good question about this change acronym, do they need to be done in order? Can they be done in any order?
Well, the capacity, say I wouldn't, okay? I wouldn't because I would say keep it in that order, but not done in that order, because the capacity is built over time. I think it would be more preferable for them to remember it, but not do it at that in the same structure. Yeah.
If a leader is listening today and they want to raise their standard, and this is kind of an open question because you've kind of talked about a little bit of each way that you've gone through about the answer to this. But if someone's listening today and they want to raise their standard without destroying the balance of what they're doing, aside from change, because that's definitely one of the answers, what could they begin doing today or tomorrow to help them get ready?
Change your mindset. Definitely ask those the right questions to the right people. Well, what are those right questions? We'll start with the acronym change, and then you'll see that those right questions for you will fit. But definitely your mindset, because a lot of people are, I would say they're addicted to their identity. So I would say the first thing is accept where that new identity is being created, because that's how you can lead to that change. If you're clinging and being addicted to that previous identity, saying, well, I was in the military, I was doing this, and trying to cling to the past of where you're supposed to be in that time frame of your life. Now I'm no longer in the military. I'm accepting it. It's still even a struggle. I would love to just go back and wear the uniform and yay, but I see that the military even changed their mindset. So it's a level of preparation that you have to do. And when you go and self-analyze yourself with that change and you're creating that structure and remembering, then you'll be able to make those changes for yourself. I became a person that shed that skin, that eventually became that individual that I always wanted to be. I always wanted to be that person, and I made those tough decisions. It's very difficult to start, but if you start somewhere, start with analyzing your change. That's the answer to the question. Start with the change acronym. Analyze yourself. Go ahead, and then you'll see where you fit in.
Yeah. It's such a great advice, because the last thing I told a friend of mine recently was you never know what's around the corner. So don't just preclude this idea that a particular condition will exist forever and that it's just going to change on its own. You mentioned throughout your stories that leadership is often revealed in how they behave when they're exhausted, how they behave when they're behind, how they behave when they're overlooked in a workplace, how they behave when the pressure is against them, right? And that's when the real kind of identity starts to pop. Can you talk a little bit about that, maybe in humility, about how people protect themselves when their pressure is starting to really kind of get on top of them?
It's not about pushing harder. It's about becoming the man that can hold more pressure, more responsibility, whether it's at work, with your family, more with the age, which is honest, self-audit, where you're going to see more truth. So please pick your field, stay in your lane. Don't try to emulate and be JD Tremblay.
Right. Be yourself.
If you try to be that truth to yourself, so that now you're able to impact people, because you're going to get more impact as you build that capacity, which is your truth. my favorite page in my book is in the epilogue, and I say it at the end of the book so that it resonates with people. And I said it multiple times on the podcast. On this one is, I am not special. I follow a structure, use that change acronym, do it, and it's going to create some form of capacity in your life that it's going to increase it. And over time, you'll see changes. I had built up that capacity. I understood what my truth was. And now I get to do these events in a healthy way. I get to encourage people. We get to see transformation in their life. And to me, that couldn't even be a more rewarding way of using the life that God gave me. On the mental health side, I get to achieve much more. And I've built that pressure. So definitely something to think about for others that are going through this, maybe listening to this podcast and thinking, this is the end of the road. Maybe it's the last podcast they're listening to. And I'm hoping that God is going to use this message to give that moment of clarity for someone, put it in their heart to say, and maybe it's going to save someone's life to just go, look, go with the change. Go with that acronym. Evaluate your life and see that JD was at that moment. I'm pleased if all of a sudden one day you come back as a listener and say, well, I'm thriving, or I stayed alive, or I did this. I get this to do this transformation. I got to change because I listened to this message. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an honor to be able to speak with you about it and to listen to you talk about these things. And I hope the listeners are able to pull all of this amazing information, these things that I think are perfect clips, and enact those things to help them make the changes that they want to be. But it's not going to work if they just don't start moving. They can't just sit there and wait for it to be a reality. They've got to make some work on that. And JD, I want to say thank you again for joining me on this. And there's so much more we could talk about. I really believe that. And so hopefully you'll take the time to maybe come back and talk more about this stuff. It'd be a pleasure to have you. We're going to be putting a link to all of your information, the book, and just everything about you down in the show notes below. And I hope that people who are listening now or watching on YouTube or on Spotify or soon to be Apple Podcasts, is going to be having a video soon, that they'll subscribe to the channel so they can hear more about this type of thing. And make people's lives better, because that's what we're trying to do, is make people better. And you're definitely an example of that. And thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. And it was a pleasure to have a conversation.